Okay, here's today's assignment, evaluating expressions. So basically this means we take algebraic expressions with variables and we plug in the number they give us for the variable and then solve and use our simplifying skills. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally after that. Now remember, this is a video, so I will go faster, but remember it's a video, so you can pause and you can rewind. So number one, we have y plus x minus y, and we're going to use x equals 2 and y equals -8. So I'm going to replace this first y with a -8. After that, y is a plus sign. Then I'm going to replace this x with a 2. After that, x is a minus sign. And then I'm going to replace that y with a -8. Now be very careful here. I see people a lot, or young people a lot, what they'll do is instead of having this double negative that should be there because the gray negative is part of the original equation and the pink negative is part of the -8 that y equals, what I'll see young people do is they'll write -8 plus 2 minus 8 because they're like, oh, there's already a minus sign there, so I don't need to write another one. No. One's a minus sign, one's part of the -8. So you got to be careful with that. I see that a lot. And these kind of sign mistakes are super common, so don't feel bad if you make them. I still make them. But that's how you can mess up and get the wrong answer. But this is why I have you show your work, because if you do something like this, I can see where you went wrong. All right. So these two negatives next to each other that we see make positive. So we didn't mess with anything else, so everything else gets brought down. Then we just keep doing our please excuse my dear Aunt Sally skills, right? So we have no more multiplication. We have just addition and subtraction, so we start from left to right. So -8 plus 2 is -6. Bring everything else down. -6 plus 8 gives us a +2. Then we have x minus 5 minus y. This time, x is 5, y is 7. So we'll replace this x with, a 5. And then we have -5, minus sign, and then we replace the y with the number 7, okay? So everything in gray is what I copied directly from what was given to us originally. So we have no more multiplying or dividing happening in here. We don't have any exponents. We don't have a parentheses. So we're going to do adding and subtraction, and we go left to right. So 5 minus 5 is 0. So we have 0 minus 7. And 0 minus 7 gives us a -7. The type of work that I show, you should also show. All right, let's look at 3. So we have x parentheses, x minus y, close parentheses, and we're going to use x equals -7 and y equals -6. So replace this first x with a -7. We have a parentheses. Replace the second x with a -7. Then there's a subtraction sign, and then we replace y with a -6, and then we close up that parentheses. So here we go. Well, we have two negatives right up next to each other, so we got to flip those around and make it a positive. So that means everything else we didn't really mess with or change. So we bring it all down. Now we have a parentheses here, so we do the work in our parentheses. So -7 plus 6 gives us a -1. And then a -7 is next to us. Now, we cannot drop the parentheses here because there is no... I'm going to write a little note. There's no like adding or subtraction sign in front of the parentheses. So this time the parentheses is telling us to multiply. Okay, so we have to figure out what's -7 times -1. Oh, no, that's not it. -7 times the -1 is a +7. I was adding and multiplying at the same time. Crazy. All right, let's look at number 4. So number 4, we're going to have m equal -1, n is going to equal negative 3. So we'll start replacing. This first m is a negative 1, parentheses. The second m is a negative 1. After that, it's a minus sign, and then we replace the n with a negative 3. So once again, we're going to switch out or put together the two negatives next to each other, make a positive. We didn't mess with anything else. We got to do our parentheses work. So negative 1 plus 3 gives us a 2. So we have 2 parentheses, negative 1. So right here, the parentheses is showing us to multiply to this negative 1 because there is no addition or subtraction sign in between. So there's no addition and subtraction sign here. So this is going to mean multiplication. So negative 1 times 2 is a negative 2. You will do the next 4 on your own. The only one you need to be careful with is negative 1 plus JH. Whenever you see two letters next to each other like this means they're being multiplied. So if you want, you can put like a little multiplication dot there to remind you. So when you replace the J and replace the H, you know you're multiplying. All right, let's look at number 9. So number 9, we have P minus Q plus P all over 3. So once again, we are going to replace our numbers with, replace our variables with the numbers they gave us. So to replace this first P, we write a negative 3. Then we have a minus sign. We replace Q with a negative 9. Then we have a plus sign. And then we replace P with a negative 3. All right. And then all of that, don't forget, is over 3. Now, I know we have, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, and fraction bar means division, right? But we can, but we probably shouldn't divide quite yet. We should only divide when we have like one number up top here. And right now, we got to figure out what that one number is. So let's go from left to right and fix anything that needs to get fixed. So we have 2 negative signs next to each other. So let's fix that. So we have negative 3 plus 9. And then we have a positive and negative next to each other. So that changes to a negative 3. And all of that is still over 3. All right, so next up, we're going to do left to right. So we have negative 3 plus 9, which gives us 6. And then we have minus 3 over 3. 6 minus 3 gives us 3. So we have 3 over 3. And 3 over 3, or 3 divided by 3, gives us an answer of 1. Looking at number 10, there's a lot going on here. So let's look at that. So x is negative 4, y is negative 3, z is negative 5. So when we replace this z here, we write negative 5. And then we got a minus sign with a parentheses. Then we replace that z that's after that with a negative 5. Then we have a plus sign and then our x value, which is a negative 4. And then we have a plus sign, and then we have that y value, which is a negative 3. Very good. So, we have to do the work inside of our parentheses first. Now, if you want, you can fix how these are, like we have a positive and negative next to each other. You can turn those into minus signs. But I noticed today in class, what really helped to think about and like figure out how to do stuff was, see how we have a negative 5 plus a negative 4? Well, negative 5 plus negative 4, we're adding two numbers that are both negative. So that gives us a negative 9. And then we bring down everything else. And then add these two numbers, negative 9 plus negative 3, gives us negative 12. And then now compared to number 7 here, I'm sorry, number 3 here, see how we had negative 7 parentheses negative 1 parentheses? There was no plus or minus sign in front of that parentheses. Well, this one, we do have a plus or minus sign. And so, therefore, since we have only one number left inside of our parentheses here, and we have that minus sign, we can actually drop the parentheses. So we have -5 minus a -12. And two negatives together make a positive. So really we have -5 plus 12, and that would give us a +7. Alternatively, and I'm going to do this quickly, if you wanted to fix those signs there, we would have -5. We would have -5 minus, close the parentheses, -5 minus 4 minus 3, right? Because if you wanted to like fix these guys here, that is fine. You will still get the same answer, because -5 minus 4 gives us -9 minus 3. -9 minus 3 gives us -12. And look at that. Now we're in the same spot we had been over here, where we can drop that parentheses and do all of that fun stuff. So you will do 11 and 12 on your own. Let's look at 13 and 14 together, because they're kind of crazy. All right, so x is going to be -3, y is going to be -9. So we got -3 minus parentheses a -3 minus parentheses -9 minus -3, and then close up those parentheses. So we got to work from the inside out, and here we have two negatives next to each other, so really we have -9 plus 3 there. -9 plus 3 gives us a -6, so we have a -3 minus -3 minus -6. But that number is being surrounded by a parentheses with a minus sign in front of it, this minus sign here. So we can drop them, and then two minus signs together make a positive. -3 plus 6 gives us 3, so this turns into -3 minus 3. And again, those parentheses are surrounding a number with a adding or subtracting sign in front of it, so we can actually drop the sign there. And -3 minus 3 gives us -6. 14, I'm going to go very quickly. We have Q, which should be a 10, and there's technically multiplication happening here, so I'm going to write multiplication. P is going to be times a -7 minus parentheses 10 plus -7. Parentheses first, and we got to fix something. A negative and a positive next to each other make a negative, so we have 10 minus 7. 10 minus 7 gives us a 3. Now we have to do our multiplication stuff. So we have to do this, which gives us a -70 minus parentheses 3. But again, see how we're minusing a parentheses 3? So because of that minus sign in front of the parentheses, we can actually, that helps to tell us, hey, we don't have to multiply here. We are actually subtracting that 3 that's inside of the parentheses. And -70 minus 3 is a -73. All right, you can do 15. 16 is extra credit. Good luck. And if you have any questions, let me know.